Welcome back, listeners, to a brand new episode of The New Standard. You're checking out the program on December 4th, 2024. I want to welcome everybody to the program. The show is hosted by yours truly, Lance Williams. Please hit us with a like and a subscribe. And full disclosure, we are not doing this show live. This show is pre-recorded, and the title of the show is Let's Not Act Surprised. This is the Steelers versus Browns breakdown. By the time you're hearing this show, it's probably going to be Thursday morning or Wednesday evening. Wanted to do the show this way because I just have some other things that I need to do, and it's going to be difficult for me to jump into a live program. As always, we're going to put the podcast out later on this week as well. And again, please make sure you like and subscribe to the program. I know for sure with the title being called Let's Not Act Surprised, that's in reference to Mike Tomlin's quote on the AFC North Hard Knocks, not that the Steelers are 9-3, because I'm absolutely surprised that they are 9-3. They're playing way above the level that I thought they would, and how they're playing this gauntlet on the back half of the season. I think they're actually going to do pretty well, because when I look at this team, I think right now that the Steelers are the second best team in the AFC. I think they are better than Kansas City. Kansas City has not played consistent football, although the dreaded triumvirate of Mahomes and Kelsey and Andy Reid, and I'm going to throw in the defensive coordinator as well, although Spagnuolo, although those guys have shown it time and time again that they are a high pedigreed outfit. I think the Steelers right now are playing better football than the Chiefs, and they're finding ways like the Chiefs, ironically, to win games, but I think they're playing better ball. I think they're as good on the defensive side of football. And ironically, I think they're better than the Chiefs right now offensively. I think the best team in the AFC right now is the Buffalo Bills. I think the best team in football is Detroit. However, Detroit is pretty broke up, got a lot of injuries. And I think the second best team is Philadelphia. I think a dark horse team in the AFC are the Baltimore Ravens, although the Steelers did beat them. I think that Ravens team with Lamar and Derrick Henry will always be a tough out for everybody. But on this particular episode, I want to recap a couple of things from the last game. I want to talk about some trends that I'm seeing with this football team. I also want to give some kudos to a couple of players from the last game. And I also want to jump into a couple of predictions or the predictions for this game and ask you all some true or falses as we get into those predictions. Looking back at the last one, I want to give a shout out to Broderick Jones. He's been much maligned on this program. We've made fun of Bro Joe and his inconsistency, but this is why you lift all them weights. This is why you practice, and this is why coaching staffs and Mike Tomlin is so good that you have patience with these guys. You coach these guys up. You trust what you saw in your evaluation. You be patient with these guys, and you try to get them better. In the last game, he had a 71.4 grade, according to PFF, had one of his highest pass protection grades of 61.1, which is a yellow grade. The 71.4 is a green grade. So you can see that Broderick Jones is improving. If you go back and watch the All-22 and watch Broderick Jones, I thought he played an outstanding game against Cincinnati. You did not hear him. You didn't hear his name called. He didn't get penalized. And you didn't see him playing poorly in pass protection. He is starting to stack games. And if you look at Broderick Jones athletically, he's probably one of the most gifted tackles in the National Football League from a size, length, power, and speed perspective. He has all the traits and all the tools. And it's great to see that the young man is starting to put that together. Another number that jumped out to me in the game and in the last two games is that the Steelers have only punted twice. along with them scoring 44 points on the road, which is fantastic for any offense, let alone a Steeler offense. They've only punted 2 times in the last 2 games. That is absolutely impressive. I'm not sure I would be able to convince any of you that you would have thought that at any point in time in this season that the Steelers would only punt twice. That's fantastic. The offense is clicking. Kudos to Russell Wilson. Kudos to Arthur Smith. Kudos to Mike Tomlin and the rest of the brass of the Pittsburgh Steelers for identifying Russell Wilson as that missing ingredient and Arthur Smith as that missing ingredient. Right now, Russ is chefing and Arthur Smith is sous chefing. Over the last couple of games, the last 2 games, quarterback rating Russell Wilson, it might be over the last one, but I think it's the last 2. Quarterback rating of 104.8. His EPA, and this is over the last 2, is 9th at a 0.172. His PFF grade for the last game was 78.6, which was one of the higher PFF grades. If you look at some of his marks just from week 13 in terms of EPA per play, that's expected points added. He was 3rd during the week behind Jared Allen and Love from the Green Bay Packers at 0.428. So that is a fantastic number. That is an outstanding number. He played excellent against the Cincinnati Bengals. In terms of success rate, he was number 1. He was the number 1 starting quarterback over the course of that week 13, at 67.4% of the plays that he ran were successful. In terms of completion percentage, he was 2nd at 80.6. In terms of expected completion percentage, he was top 10 as well. He had a fantastic game. He is playing some of his best football, clearly. And the marriage between Mike Tomlin and Russell Wilson is proving to be outstanding for this team. Because right now, when I look at this team in terms of floor and ceiling, I think the floor is very high. If Russell Wilson continues to play the type of football where he is putting a priority on not taking sacks and keeping the offense on schedule, that this Steeler team that you're seeing, I think the floor is very high. I think the floor is very high. And I think the ceiling is very high. I might have got that wrong. Sometimes I get that mixed up and backwards. They have a low floor and a very high ceiling. Well, I know they have a high floor, high ceiling where I think they will beat most teams and they can compete against elite teams. And I know I probably flubbed that. I always flub the high floor, high ceiling, where I think on any given day, specifically in the AFC, that they can beat anybody. I think they can go to Kansas City and win. The only place I don't think they might be able to go and win is probably Buffalo and Baltimore. I think those are 2 very tough spots for them. But if they were to win both of those games, or if they were to beat later in the year Baltimore at home, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised at all. This is a very good football team. I'm not sure if I think they're as good as Philadelphia, and we will see because they match up later in the year. I'm not so sure they're as good as Philadelphia or Detroit. But in the AFC, I think there's, in my opinion, they're number 2. And of course, I'm biased as a Steeler fan, but I think they're number 2. Now, here's the thing that gives me a little bit of pause when it comes to them. And I wanted to jump into some trends that I see on the defensive side of football. As much as we've talked about their red zone offense, their red zone defense has been very troubling over the last 4 weeks. In the last 4 weeks, teams have converted 11 of their 13 red zone trips for touchdowns. That's a percentage of 85%, which would be dead last in the National Football League. that is concerning. And it has been trending worse every single week. However, in a one-game scenario, I think that Tomlin, Austin, and the guys on the defense can come up with a menu and a plan to neutralize most offenses. I think my concern when I look at them defensively is, to me, it feels inconsistent against the run, although stats would say otherwise. And I'm concerned about Joey Summer League Porter Jr., Joey Penalty Jr. I'm a little concerned that he's going to commit a penalty that's going to cost them in a critical situation. But with Highsmith coming back, Herbert cooking, Watt cooking again, I think they can get consistent pressure. I love the versatility of the linebackers and Wilson and Queen being able to run with backs and cover guys with speed. I like the fact that they can play big nickel, they can play regular nickel, but I'm going to give you guys a true and a false. And I want you to respond to this true or false in the chat when you hear the show. True or false, Beanie Bishop should start at nickel corner over Cam Sutton. One thing that also jumped out to me was Cam Sutton can't run. And I hope the Steelers take a very good look at that nickel corner position, because I think Beanie Bishop has played solid football this year. I'm wondering what the staff, if the staff playing Cam Sutton close to 75, 80% of the snaps against the Bengals is indication that they don't think that Beanie Bishop is playing right or well. Hopefully that's not what that means. I think Beanie Bishop is solid and has played solid. And you can't have enough good coverage guys. But I don't think Cam Sutton can run. And I think Cam Sutton got picked on, particularly in that fourth quarter against the Bengals. And I think that's troubling. On the offensive side of the ball, what we see is this offense is becoming a time of possession bully. Over the last 4 games, they've played 57 more plays than their opponents. That's an average of 15 more plays than their opponent. And if you look at an average drive is like 5, probably about 6 plays. So in terms of plays, they're getting a couple of more drives of plays. And with their turnovers, they're getting a lot more opportunities to possess the ball and make something happen with their offense, as well as the more you have it, the more the other team does not have it. And so we're starting to see this offense trend on being a time of possession bully. You look at the Commanders game, they had it 12 and a half more minutes. You look at the Ravens game, they had it almost 13 more minutes. The Browns game, almost 11 more minutes. And they had it about 3 more minutes in the Bengals game. This is good. This means they're converting third downs as well. And we can see over the last few games that has improved. So I think the red zone, when I look at both sides of the ball, the red zone is where you need improvement. You know, you've got to convert more than 50% in the red zone. And that's touchdowns. When you get in there, you score touchdowns, considering that the Ravens are at a 70% clip. I think some of that is due to the fact of some lack of mobility of Russell Wilson. When you have a mobile quarterback, it gives you options. You don't have to be as fine with your play calls. You have a quarterback that can make plays, extend plays, break down your coverage, either run it in, break your coverage down, and pass it to a guy that comes open and frees himself from a plaster. That's the threat that a running quarterback can do to you in the red zone. That's why you see most teams with mobile quarterbacks are the better teams in the red zone. I think it's trending better. But again, you know, in terms of the red zone defense, it's got to get better. 3-3 against the Commanders. Ravens were 2-2. Browns were 3-4. The Bengals were 3-4 against them. They've got to get better in the red zone in terms of stopping people. And namely, that better start in this game against the Browns. Because when you go back to that Browns game, the first Browns game, and I know it was in a torrential downpour, but I mean, or a torrential snowstorm, but they've got to put together a better performance in this rematch. And I think, with better conditions and with Myles Garrett being a little nicked going into the game, I think that's the big difference in this game. But when you look at the first game, I mean, the Browns did not convert very well on third down and all. I think in terms of third down conversions, they were 1 of 10, but they were excellent in terms of fourth down efficiency. They were 4 of 4 in the game. I thought Jameis Winston played fairly well, although he did turn the ball over. He threw for about 219. Did not have a touchdown pass, but in those elements, the thing that stands out to me is that Judy had a good game, 6 of 6 for 85 yards. That is a player that they're going to have to account for, and they're going to have to keep under wraps, particularly the game that he had against a very good defense in Denver. And the thing about it is when you look at the Browns can be very explosive, very boom bust. But the issue with the Browns is you have to put the Browns in down and distance situations where just that Jameis Winston is going to push the ball. You want to put Winston in positions where he is going to take penitentiary chances with the football. And when he does, you have to take advantage of him. In that game, Russell Wilson threw it 28 times, had 21 completions, 270. He was sacked 4 times in the game, but a lot of that was Myles Garrett wrecking damage in the first half. Had a quarterback rating of 116.7. If Russ plays like that in Pittsburgh, I think they're going to put it on the Browns. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and I think the Steelers are going to win this game 28-17. I think the Steelers are trending in the right direction. Listeners, again, you're checking out the new standard. Let's not act surprised. I want you guys to give me your thoughts and your predictions on the game. I'm predicting 28-17 Steelers, for the Steelers to go to 10-3 to maintain their stranglehold on the AFC North. They're playing quality football. And like I said on the last show, they're showing you a variety of different ways that they can win football games. They can win games where they don't score touchdowns. They can win knockdown, drag out, tough games where their defensive struggles. They can win shootouts. They can win a variety of ways. The more ways you can win, the better it is. And so I think this team is still, there's some meat on the bone, and they're still getting better. But I think you see Broderick Jones playing well. Zach Frazier is playing well. McCormick is playing well. You can still see that this football team is growing. Hopefully, Calvin Austin will play in the game this weekend. He got banged up, but it's going to be great that Highsmith is coming back. With him coming back, Herbert playing, I think they'll be able to get pressure on the Browns. I think they will be able to stranglehold the running game and force Jameis Winston into some mistakes. So again, I like the Steelers winning this game 28-17. But with that, we're going to conclude the program. And as always, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. Go Steelers.